Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Ascalise, the inventress. My business is Inventing A to Z. At Inventing A to Z, I work with clients to take their products from concept to fruition, from a napkin idea all the way to the marketplace and everything in between, the right way. If you want to contact me, email me, lisa@inventingatoz.com. My website, inventingatoz.com. Well, hello, Gary, and welcome to the Inventors Podcast. I just want to make a brief introduction. You are an amazing man. You know, first and foremost, you are the executive director of POAC, and that's Autistic Services, right?
Yes.
You had this wonderful organization that so many people need to know about, Gary. What you do is so important that I don't know how many people do not understand. Until my daughter Brittany really started working for your company, how many years ago now?
I know.
It really wasn't anything. I mean, I knew about autism. I have a couple of friends who have children who have autism, but still was just really scratching the surface. But I'd love to hear from you, Gary, your backstory, how you founded this program and what led you to it. Please share with everyone, and welcome, Gary.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. When I found out that you reached out to us, I was like, of course, I want to talk to you. Always a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for allowing us this platform. So it all started with my son, Christopher, whose birthday was yesterday, 27 years old yesterday. Amazing young man. So Chris was born 27 years ago, and I suspected something about a year and a half. Chris was our first child, and nobody wants to say or think something's different or, unusual about their child. In fact, just the opposite, oh, look at this ink splot. She's the most greatest artist in the world. And I thought something was wrong with Chris. He wasn't communicating. We thought he was hard of hearing because we would call his name and he wouldn't look. I would even stand behind him sometimes and scream loudly and he wouldn't budge.
How old at that point?
At that, two years old. Mm-hmm. But he would be upstairs in his bedroom and I hit the power button of the VCRs back then, and he would run down the stairs. So he heard the click of the VCR. I'm like, oh, that's weird, wasn't speaking. So we took him to an audiologist because we thought he was hard of hearing. Mm-hmm. And audiologist, oh no, he can hear fine. I'm like, but he doesn't respond to my name, his name. And the doctor was like, well, my own kids don't listen to me. Don't worry about it. Mm. And I'm like, huh. And he goes, in fact, Mr. Weitzen, your son has superior hearing. I'm like, oh, is that why he's covering his ears all the time or screaming when the vacuum cleaner's on? And he goes, yeah. So hired a speech therapist. Mm-hmm. Nobody, 3 days a week, $80 an hour cash, non-reimbursed by insurance, working 2 jobs to pay it. And the speech therapist never mentioned autism. And she in fact said, Mr. Weitzen, he's going to be great, but instead of 3 days a week at $80 an hour, we need 5 days a week at $80 an hour. And this was 20 something years ago. Yeah. So we did 5 days a week, no improvement. My Chris's mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And we figured, well, maybe he just needs to be in a preschool, with other kids. And so we enrolled him into the Goddard School.
Sure.
And at the time, I think it was the first Goddard School in New Jersey, and it was kind of like ritzy. And I remember going there, And the director was like, oh, at the Goddard School. And he always folded his hands every time he said Goddard. Then the Goddard philosophy. So my wife and I enrolled him in the Goddard School.
Well, because that had to be it.
It had to be it, you know. And he was there about a month. And his teacher, a 24-year-old Miss Patty, you know, who loved my son. Lisa, how do I know she loved him? He would come home with Miss Patty's lipstick marks all over his face and smelling like her perfume because she would hold him all day.
And how, at this point, how old was he now at this point, moving forward?
About 3.
He was
just under 3, not talking. And everybody is saying, oh, he's a boy. Some boys talk later. I actually had 3 separate appointments with his pediatrician saying something's wrong with Chris. And they were like, nothing's wrong.
Wow.
In fact, the nurse, the head nurse, and I'm going to quote her word for word, Mr. Weitzen, if you would just sit back and shut up and allow your son to talk, he would.
You've got to be kidding.
Word for word, word for word. And I was like, and so then you're thinking, well, am I being a helicopter parent? Am I, you know? So Miss Patty requested a meeting after about a month. And she started the meeting with 4 words that did her and everyone in the teaching profession the greatest service. She started the conversation, Mr. Weitzen, I'm just a teacher, but I know kids, and something's wrong with Chris, something's different. And she goes, I suggest you go to the pediatrician. So I told her everything we did, and she goes, you have to see a neurologist. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm a stupid person, but I didn't know why you would take a healthy child to a neurologist. In my mind, that was an old person's doctor, you know.
Let me interrupt. Let me ask you a question. Was he making any sounds? You said
a lot of vocalizations, a lot of that, a lot of screaming. He was babbling, no words though, and no receptive language. Like, give daddy the cup. He would look at me like, oh, he's doing that thing again, and would hand me anything, maybe the cup, but not knowing if it was right. Some kids with autism are mute, no vocalizations, but my majority of the nonverbal individuals have a lot of vocalizations, a lot of that.
Yes. Good
question though. So long story short, went to the neurologist, 6-month wait to get an appointment, 6 months to get an appointment. And the doctor said, oh yeah, your son has autism, like that. Classically autistic, like that. And back then, there was nothing. The rate of autism back then was considered to be 1 in 10,000. So 10,000 babies, 1 baby with autism. Today, the rate in New Jersey, 1 out of every 20 boys in the state of New Jersey has autism.
That's unbelievable.
AIDS, cancer, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, Down syndrome, muscular dystrophy combined. More children have autism than those 6 combined. The rate's 1 out of 68 nationwide. So there was nothing.
You had the benefit. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you had the benefit of taking your child to a pediatrician, neurologist. Yes. I mean, some families don't have that, right?
A lot.
I think those statistics may not have been accurate even back then.
Yeah, it was not. Do I ever think it was truly 1 in 10,000? No. But do I think there's 10 times more individuals with autism today? Absolutely, without a doubt. So, you're not a scientist. I'm sure there's all kinds of mysteries behind and surrounding autism and where it comes from, what it stems from. Yeah, we believe, I actually sit on the Governor's Council for Biomedical Autism Research. I'm their lone dad on there, and I sit with brilliant scientists. And the theory, and it's just a theory, is that the children are genetically susceptible to autism. Something happens and triggers it. I'm Irish. I'm genetically susceptible to freckles. So if I go out in the sun, I will get a lot more freckles than my non-Irish friends. But if I don't go out in the sun, I'm not going to get freckles, even though it's still in my DNA. We know if you have an autoimmune history in your family. So if your grandfather or grandmother had lupus, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, and there's like 150 autoimmune disorders, the likelihood of you having a child with autism is greatly increased.
Isn't that
We don't know why. We don't know why. The only thing every autism expert agrees on is the earlier you can identify the child as having autism, the better the outcome for that child and their entire family.
And why is that, and how would it have changed?
Yes. Okay.
In early, it was 2 when he heard the VCR button and he ran downstairs. That was at 2. How would it have been diagnosed?
Right.
How would you know? I mean, you had an inkling that there was something that wasn't
correct. Excellent question. And I got the perfect answer.
Okay.
The American Academy of Pediatrics. So the doctors in charge of all the pediatricians in our country recommend 5 developmental screening tools for every single child before the age of 3. 3 general developmental screenings and 2 autism specific, one at 18 months and one at 24 months. There are tests that you go down, and it's basically a checklist because there's no genetic test or blood test. It's, can they do this, or are they doing this? Check, 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 check. You get enough checks, the child has autism. If I get a phone call from a mother of an 18-month-old just diagnosed, Lisa, I'm thrilled to get that phone call. I am thrilled. Give me an 18-month-old every day of the week. I can set that family on the path for the greatest success for that child, often getting them mainstreamed. Now, damaged neurology is still damaged neurology. We're playing the cards God deals us. But instead of learning this much, they're going to learn, my wingspan is too big for the screen, but just picture my hands on opposite ends of the room. When we both know how many people who had babies. You had children. When you go for a well visit, what are the 2 pieces of information you get? Height and weight. Oh, your child, 70th percentile height, 60th percentile weight. Have you ever heard, oh, your child developmentally is 12 months lower than her peers? That's never discussed. Never. We have to change the mindset. The CDC actually has a great program. Just Google CDC Act Early to get all of these, to look at the milestones that children should be reaching from 3 months, and it goes up to 5 years, and it's available in over a dozen different languages. It's incredible. And the tagline is, we have to change the way we look at children's growth. It's just not the marks on the door frame, what can they do today that they couldn't do yesterday? And more importantly, is there anything they can't do today that they should, compared to their peers?
Well, that's that's great information, and everybody out there listening needs to know.
Absolutely
having babies every single day, and every parent is nervous and worried. And like you said, am I just being a helicopter parent? Correct. And that's the way most parents think. It's just, I
know. You don't want to think, oh, it's not my baby, I'm probably overthinking it. Yeah. If my car was making a strange sound, I'm not going to say, it's probably nothing, right. Or it's probably something stuck in my wheel well. Yeah. Well, look, and it's amazing what I don't want to say accept with our children. It's just because we think, oh, my baby's going to be perfect, Yes. And it doesn't mean they're not perfect. It just means they might need a little help, and testing them early and diagnosing them early is the best way for them to get that help, bar none.
I want to ask you, are there specialized pediatricians?
Very few. And by very few, I mean, in our state, I think we have a couple dozen.
But they exist. But they do exist.
You want to look at a developmental pediatrician, usually based through a hospital. The average pediatrician, there was a study a few years ago that 70% of all developmental disabilities go unrecognized in the pediatrician's office. So 7 out of 10. And autism is the only developmental disability that the parents report over and over again. I go to my pediatrician, something's wrong with my baby, and the doctor tells me I'm wrong.
And they dismiss it.
And they dismiss it.
It's just, he's a boy.
He's just a boy. He's your first child. Don't worry about it.
He's your last child. Don't
exactly. Worry. Or they ask the wrong questions. Well, does your child point? And you think, well, yeah, I remember last month he pointed. No, how often does he point? When was the last time he pointed? You know, that they're not trained. They're truly not trained to look at. As a matter of fact, I guess about 10 years ago, POAC funded the first ever world history, the first ever training for pediatricians how to recognize the signs and symptoms of autism and how to convey the thought. POAC funded that. That was never done before. And that was only done about a decade ago. How crazy is that? Now
you started, speaking of that, going backwards, you started POAC, it was 1999?
That's when it started. I actually came aboard like a year after. Okay, you know, so I wasn't the original founder. It was 4 parents around a kitchen table in Brick, New Jersey. When I came on board, I took it from that. They were doing, I think, 2 events a year, a picnic and a conference. Last year, we had 328 days worth of events and trainings, and free. Almost everything we do is free of charge.
I love that too, and I want to talk about that because you're doing some great things. You have all of your different. I know you take them to the movies. You go swimming. I mean, all kinds of activities you do, and God bless you for that. Also, Gary, I've never seen it done before. I've never. You're so ensconced, and you're so hands-on, and so many people love and appreciate you for that. Parents and their families. Now, it's not just children; they're adults.
No, adults as well. And yeah, my son's 27. Simone's son is 29. She's my counterpart at POAC. So they're not babies. They're men. They're adults. And we do a lot for the adult population. Something we do every year. We have a sexuality conference. People don't like to talk about sex.
That's fantastic.
You know, and we do it.
7 years old.
Exactly. And we do it every year.
Right.
You know? Our guys are sexual. They are. And many of them can have a relationship. I know several individuals personally with autism who are married, you know, and date, not the same people, of course, you know, 2 separate groups there, the daters and the married people. And we have to talk about it, and we don't talk about it.
They're people.
They're people. Absolutely.
Men and women.
I give you tell you how important it is. In New Jersey, and I'm assuming this is the way across the country, but in our state, sex education is part of the core curriculum. Every single student gets it. It's based,
correct.
Unless you're in special ed. If you're in special ed, you're excluded from it, and you have to specifically request to opt into it. Most people don't even know that. So our children who are at the highest risk are females with autism. Studies show 7 out of 10 are sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday, 70% before they turn 18. And 50% of all individuals with autism who are sexually assaulted once or sexually assaulted 10 or more times. So this is not an ongoing thing. This is, I mean, it's not a once and done. It is an ongoing over and over and over. And those are our females, our boys, about 30%. So about a third before 18. It breaks it hurts my soul. It truly does. It truly does.
But this is why you're doing what you do, Gary. You also do training. Okay. So I want to talk about how you work with police departments.
Yes.
Departments. You're working with so many people to educate them on autism. I mean, look at how many young men have been shot and killed because police officers are not educated to know that this person, this human being, this young boy or man had autism, and he got nervous and lashed out or whatever it is. I mean, who knows that another person has autism when they think they're drawing a gun? I believe the most recent one was here in Philly, right? In Philadelphia.
Yeah, Lisa, it happens all the time.
I'm sure every day.
Yeah.
What we know of, what we hear about, right?
Yeah. And we don't hear about it nearly enough. 25%. So 1 out of every 4 people shot and killed by police are developmentally disabled or mentally ill. And many of the ones who are developmentally disabled are classified on the report as mentally ill because it shifts the, oh, mentally ill, he probably deserved it. You know, it changes from, oh, maybe a victim to an aggressive. Yeah. And I'm not saying that those shots, that the officers didn't follow protocol. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying things could have gone differently. Things could have gone differently. But 25% of the shootings and the killings by police are disabled individuals. And if you're Black and autistic, 55% get arrested. Imagine that. If you're Black and have autism, you have more than half will physically get arrested.
No chance.
No chance.
Gary, and what are you doing? So I want to talk about, number one, congratulations. You're going to be on the Dr. Oz show.
I am. I talked to Dr. Oz. Really nice guy too, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, and because he heard about what you do, what you're doing to educate police officers. I mean, everyone needs this education. Right. This should be implemented in every single program, in every school. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Goddard, even the Goddard School.
Yes, Goddard. You didn't fold your hands, Lisa, at the Goddard.
Goddard School. I mean, across the board. So you're going to speak. First of all, you have something coming up I want to talk about also. You have a lot of different events. You have something coming up June 25th, June 24th.
Oh, yes. Our walkathon. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Walkathon.
Yeah, POACwalk.org. Yay. You know, it's funny. POAC, we're the largest provider of free autism training, education, recreation, and that doesn't even count all our first responder training. And we're not funded by the government, not a penny, not one dime. And almost everything we do is free for our members and our people we do it. When we do our first responder training, you know, we always see if they can pay us, because if they pay me, I could do more for children. But if they don't have the money, we do it for free.
So you get sponsors. How do we sponsor your events?
The best way, it's a numbers game. We need people to start a walk team. Go to POACwalk.org and click join the walk and start your team. And here's the thing. Even if you can't be there that day, even if you're somewhere else, you do it online. You can start a Facebook fundraiser that's linked. Send an email out. It doesn't have to cost you a penny, and you can still raise, you know, a few $100 for us. Very, very easy. Exactly. It's just outreach, and it literally will save lives. What we're doing has saved lives. We don't even keep track. It blows my mind sometimes that we don't keep track. We used to keep track of, a police chief called and said, this child is alive. He would have been dead if not for POAC. And we used to have a tally. We stopped tallying because we get too many phone calls.
You get so many.
Yeah.
And hence the reason, let's go back to Dr. Oz. I just didn't want to forget about this.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. The ladies in the office always yell about me. Yeah. Gary, you talk so great things, but we have to pay everybody. So
the story you're telling is very, very interesting. I mean, this is very interesting stuff, but I really wanted to get that in so people do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our AOE team will start a walk this summer for you.
Oh, I would love that.
We'll do the walk. You know that we're here to
always
promote your POAC all the time. So let's talk about Dr. Oz show. Yes. This is exciting.
It was awesome. It really was. It was funny. And the producer, one of the producers on the show, he was like, yeah, he goes, there was 3 different producers charged with finding an expert for police and autism. And he goes, they looked at it separately and they all came back with your name, my name. I was like, wow. You know, I was like, that made me just, my head like grow this big. And I was only on there a few minutes, you know. Of course, I would love to talk as long as we're talking, but you have a few minutes. And and Dr. Oz was just incredible. He was highlighting several cases where individual with autism after individual with autism was shot and killed, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And then he had a mother on whose son was not killed, but I think he was 13, 14 years old and shot 11 times in the back.
And was not killed, did not die.
No, was not killed. Arm is paralyzed, a lot of, permanent lifelong injuries, but he's alive, thank God.
Thank God.
And she actually called the police to her house for help because her son was having a behavioral episode. So she called them to help. And she goes, listen, my son has autism. He's afraid of police officers, but we have to get him to the hospital. And from that phone call, he ended up going to the hospital because he was shot 11 times.
And she said, my son has autism.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But what does it mean if you don't understand?
Correct. Correct. And the training is critical. And a lot of departments across the country, they have some form of training in place already, but you need more and ongoing. I train officers in the police academies all the time. Thousands and thousands of officers that go through the police academies. But the guys and women going through a police academy, they're in there for months. They have so much information coming in, and yeah, it's good. So let me get them then. But I want the officers who have been on the scene. I want the supervisor who's going to be calling the shots on a field intervention.
Yes.
I don't want to talk.
What you're doing? I mean,
yes. We do it all. We've done over 72,000 first responders already.
How do you do this? How do you do this, Gary? I'm sure a lot of it is virtual. Am I accurate? Or are you traveling?
No, in person.
Good for you.
Yeah, and we don't even advertise it because it's all word of mouth. People go through the training. I've had officers break down tears during the lecture. I have officers desperate. These are men and women that want to do the right thing, but they were never given the tools.
Are they crying because they're just finding out? Are they crying because they should have known, or they're feeling like they should have known this before? Maybe something could have been avoided?
Yes. Yeah. I've had officers relate interactions that went really south. And they're now realizing, oh my God, that person had autism. And just like, oh, I could have handled it differently. And some of the officers crying realize when I go over what autism is and I go into detail that their child has autism, that they knew something was wrong. And they're realizing for the first time in a classroom surrounded by their fellow officers that their child actually is on the spectrum. And if our training's half a day, when it's over, half the class doesn't leave because they want to talk to me for hours, and they want more. And the response, I cannot tell you how often an officer has said, this is the best training we've received in our career. I always joke that I'm Irish, Lisa, so I want my training to be meat and potatoes. I'm not one of the guys going to talk up here.
Real basic, right?
No, my job is to keep you
can understand. Yes,
exactly, and to keep you safer in the field. And if you're safer in the field as a officer, you're going to make my son safer on the interaction. But concrete, this is what you do, and this is how you do it. So,
well, you're talking about really crazy statistics. 50% of the young men who get shot, right, are autistic. 50% and Black.
25%. Right? 1 out of 4 who get shot and killed have developmental disability or mental illness. Yes.
That's really unbelievable.
The 50%, it was 55% of if you're autistic and Black. If you're African American and autistic, 55% get arrested. And they were looking at male and females, and we both know it's skewed more towards the males.
Of course.
So they didn't break it down how many Black males with autism were arrested, but you know it has to be more than 55%.
Yeah.
It has to be. It just has to be.
Gary, that's so sad. But what I love is that you're here, you're talking about it, and we're certainly going to spread the word. We're going to sign up for a walk. We're doing that.
Yes, that is critical. I can't stress that. And we've been saying police over and over again, but it's just not police. Police, fire, EMS, air marshals, CERTs, civilian emergency response teams, CIT, crisis intervention team, mental health and police working together. I'm the biggest fan of CIT in the world.
So are you doing conferences? How do you get 75,000 people together? Are you traveling from conference to conference?
It's not unusual for me to be Cape the beginning of the day and Sussex County at night. And a lot of the groups are large. I've done audiences of 1,000 people. I did
trainings, Gary. How long? I'm sorry to cut you off. How long are the actual trainings?
About half a day. Half a day. And if I'm doing a department, say a township, it can take anywhere from 3 to 9 days because they can't have all their officers. So it's us going there 3 to 9 times for a half a day block to do the training until every one of their officers is trained. And
I would take a lot more than that. I mean, half a day, you're talking, you're speaking by yourself.
Correct.
I mean, are you showing examples? Are you showing videos? Because we're talking about sounds and noises.
Yep. A lot of video because I want them to physically see who I'm talking about. A lot of video. I do a lot of police cam. So from officers who have submitted, their field interactions with somebody with autism. I have some training videos, PowerPoint, and I talk a lot and a lot of, again, practical experience. Everything from little tips from, hey, you got to never ask the person what you want them to do. You have to tell them. Because let's say you have autism, Lisa, and realize, I always say to officers, if you're involved with somebody with autism, it's not a good day for the person with autism. Yeah. You're there to help them, but realize that person's day, something went wrong if you were called. Something went wrong in that day. So you're there. And if I said, oh, Lisa, do you want to come over here? You're probably going to say no, right? Because you don't. You're scared. Your anxiety is through the roof. And when an officer is telling somebody, come on over here, they're not asking. They're saying, that means, and you or I, of course, would understand that. But someone with autism thought it was an option. Oh, do you want me to come there? Yeah, no, thank you.
Teaching them interaction. You're teaching
exactly
subtle interaction.
Exactly. And what it looks like, and we go over restraint procedures. Behavioral de-escalation is one of the biggest things. I always say, what are the issues? Number one, to get the individual with autism to calm down. Number one. Number two, not getting hurt as an officer. Number three, not hurting the individual with autism. And number four, getting the individual with autism to follow your commands, whatever they are. But that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. And they walk away with the tools necessary. And they also walk away with our phone number. So it's not unusual. And Brittany can tell you, for police officers to stop in the POAC office and say, please help us. I had a police chief, I won't mention the town, but I had a police chief in person came to our office and said, Gary, I have this kid in the town. He goes, my officers are going to kill him. They're going to shoot him. He's so violent. He's so aggressive, lives with his mom, single mom. And he goes, many, 3 of his officers got hurt trying to restrain this kid. And he goes, we've seen this little boy, since he was a little boy, now he's a man. And he goes, Gary, I'm telling you, he goes, we're going to shoot him.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
Please help me avoid that. And we did. We actually got that young man into a specialized training facility. And he's not even one of the ones I count that we saved his life, but
So
I think we
you
did.
help the young man with autism
Yes,
get into a facility.
correct.
Now, that's another thing, people, we can go on all day, Gary, because I mean, what is that? I mean, I have a client who has two grandsons in their 20s. They're 23 and 25. So
Right.
they're both 2 years apart. And I mean, yes, they are in a school, specialized school, but everybody does not have access, nor does everyone know that there is access.
Yeah, very hard to get in there.
Mhm.
Very hard to get in
And that
into
means that
some of
they-
these programs. And if you're older than 21,
Mhm.
it makes it 10 times harder because the funding sources dry up. Under 21, you're entitled to free and appropriate public education, FAPE, nationwide. And that should incur, behavioral interventions. So if you're under 21 and you didn't take your diploma and you have in special ed with the IEP or 504, you don't have to, it's just people in special ed know those terms, but it's the program that they follow what you're going to teach.
Mhm.
There's funding available and they're required to help. The problem is people don't know where to go. But
Well, yeah,
yes,
where they
but
don't.
once you're older than 21, you're not entitled to anything
So
anymore.
how is this possible? What happens to these adults then who don't have parents who are able to afford
Yeah.
assistance? Are there no grants there? What happens if you are of college age? Can you get into I guess a local college where there are services?
There are great college programs.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, there's books that we have that are on our website for individuals with autism who want to go to college. Every college in our country, I shouldn't say every, virtually every college in our country has a disabilities program, and especially the larger colleges.
Mhm.
And they really go above and beyond to help individuals with special needs with a disability who, yes, can do the work and earn a degree and contribute to society, but at the same time may need assistance.
Are there programs? Are they free or are
Yes, those
they're
are free. Yeah,
Mo-
those services are free. You have to seek them out.
Uh-huh.
There's even some county colleges that do an incredible job. And for a lot of our men and women on the spectrum, sometimes a county college works better because they, close to home, they can drive there. They're not dealing with the whole dorm life,
right?
Which is just, that's hard for anybody,
Yeah, sure.
but if you struggle with social skills, they don't teach you how to act in college until you're in college.
So is any of this posted on your site, Gary? If someone is looking, you're giving us just a wealth of knowledge and information. I just asked this because we're going into this conversation
Right.
that I would love to talk all night long. And I'm going to off of here, I'm going to ask you a lot more questions,
Right.
but I mean, it's interesting to know that. So over 21, children can get, or adults at this point can get into colleges for free, right?
No. The extra help is free.
The extra help is free at these universities and
Correct. Yeah,
So
they still have to pay for college. And there's things, I know people, because you could stay in special ed until you're 21.
Okay. Mhm.
You're entitled to that. So there's something called a super senior. At 18, normally you get a diploma, but you can choose if you meet the criteria to keep on in school. I know dozens of individuals with autism that rather than high school, okay, I'm going to stay in school, but I'm going to stay at my community college now.
Good.
So in fact, there are some people that could go to college for free, but it's a small percentage. I don't want to say it's free, but there's help out there.
Mhm.
What you just have to look for it. Not that it's easy and not that it's always available, but there's a lot out there. And it's a numbers game. We have an online support group, which I love, the New Jersey Autism Warriors.
Let's say that again.
The New Jersey Autism Warriors.
And
We have
listeners
over-
and the people watching, I'm sorry to interrupt you because
Yeah.
this is a very interesting topic, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who need these services.
Yes.
So we're going to put that we're going to put all of this out on social
Yep.
media, obviously. But keep on going, Gary. I'm
Yeah,
listening.
and we have, I think, 5,500 families on there.
Wow.
New Jersey families. So you have hey, my son's thinking about going to college. You're going to have 12 moms reach out to you and tell you where their son went to college, their daughter went to college, what services they get, what extra stuff, what things to worry about, like anything. Oh, my child's thinking of driving. Are there any autism drive-in schools out there? And there are, by the way, and they are. There's so much out there, but as much as I know, and I know a lot, I know a fraction of what 5,500 people know collectively.
Well,
so
and it's good
often I refer them back to the larger group.
And it's great to know that you're sharing what you know, Gary, and that you can share, the Autism Warriors and all that stuff. And can we find all of this information on your website, or at least?
Yes. And it's definitely on our website. I would suggest if you go on our website, go to the About section. There's a short video of a picture of me. So if you see this picture with the video, that's me. And it explains what POAC does and who we are. And you can see the kids firsthand.
POAC.org, Gary, what is the website?
Oh, no, POAC.net. So it's POAC.net. The other one, I won't say the three letters again, it's a pony association. And the .com is a multi-million-dollar metal company who has on there, if you're interested in autism, he has our POAC.net, because he gets a couple hundred calls a month, he says.
That's
nicest guy.
Doing that.
Nicest guy in the world. I spoke to him like twice, and he goes, "Oh no, I love what you guys do." And he goes, all of mine employees have their website, POAC's website there, because we always get phone calls for you guys. So
I love it, Gary. I want to shout your name out so everyone hears it. It's Gary Weitzen, and he is the executive director of POAC. It's Autism Services, everybody. So please reach out to POAC.net. That's POAC.net, and you will get just a wealth of information. If you go to the About page, look up Gary, you'll see his beautiful face on the front page. And
beautiful.
So Gary, I always ask at the end of our show, I love music. I love to dance. You know that about me. You've been to one of our conferences. We're in a group of people who love music because it makes it, gets us excited and gets us out of the negative space and into a positive one. So what is the song that changes your day and your mood, Gary? What's that song?
I love music too. I would say Wonder by Natalie Merchant. She wrote it about her autistic sister.
Oh my gosh. Really? Look that up. Wonder.
Just when you hear the lyrics, when you listen to the song again, the next time you listen to it, and it's amazing. And the child's there, and and doctors from all different cities to come to look at the baby. And the line in it with love, love, faith, and hope, she will make her way.
Wow.
And it melts my heart every time I think of it. And I think of my son, who was a nonverbal, very self-injurious young man who's now an adult. And Chris will live with me the rest of my life, but he works in a restaurant. He has a real job. Works in a restaurant, gets a paycheck. He's just the nicest person I know. He has made me such a better man. Trust me.
He's charming. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's really true. He's wonderful. He's a wonderful human being.
And I always say to people all the time, like, Lisa, if you had a child with autism, I always say that you're part of my family. And I mean that. That's not a tagline. At POAC, we are family. And I would have more, for everybody who has a child with autism out there, I have more in common with all of them than my own two sisters, who I love dearly, because all I have to say to you, well, you know what it's like. And you're like, yeah. And there's not explaining. And it's just that love that we have as a community. Autism has given me so many gifts. I can't begin to tell you how many gifts autism has given me. And I'm not just talking about my son. I'm talking to see, the beauty in people and prejudice and rise above it, and to see what hard work and determination. Sorry.
No, Gary, don't start. Oh, geez.
Chris has worked so hard.
Yes, I know. My
so
God.
much harder than I ever have worked in my life. He has done so much that these kids and these adults every single day, that's why we do what we do. That's why we do what we do. And thank you again for allowing me to wax on about our services.
Gary, you are an angel. You really are. You are an angel. You're such an inspiration, and you're a magical person. You really are. I've seen you interact with your son, and I've been to your parties, and that you provide such a beautiful space and a safe, caring environment for so many adults and young people and their parents. And it's just so wonderful. So thank you so much, out of my heart, for everything you do. And thank you, Gary, for agreeing to come on the Invention.
Oh, no, this is wonderful. I could talk to you forever. I think anybody could talk to you forever. Lisa.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, and spread the love.
and we always do. And, Brittany is she's one of your biggest advocates. And
she's amazing. I could talk, hours on how incredible Brittany is.
Thank you.
Truly. The kids love her. And she knows everybody's name.
I know. Yes.
And not only like the moms, dads, and the kids, she knows the guy who's in charge of maintenance in the building. Hey, John. I'm like, how do you know his name is John? She knows everybody, and she's just filled with the love that we say. She's perfect. She's just incredible with our children.
She's amazing. She's a wonderful. She's a blessing. And she loves you, Gary, for everything.
Thank you.
Everything you stand for, everything you are. Wonderful, wonderful person. I can't tell you enough. Oh, wow.
Didn't mean to get emotional there.
Oh, no, please. That's what it's all about. This is a conversation, Gary, and people need to know this about you and your organization. And, we'll talk again off of here. And hopefully at some point we get together, we get to hug and, embrace each other at another conference. And I'm inviting you back over and over again once we open our doors to AOE and have.
I am here anytime for you, for anything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
I'm here for all of you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you again, Gary.
Thank you.
Have a blessed evening. You take care. That was a wonderful, wonderful conversation I just had with Gary Weitzen, Executive Director, as I mentioned to you before, from POAC. He is just a heartfelt angel, I call him. And of course, it was a very emotional conversation, but wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation. And please make sure you check him out on his website, POAC.net, for all of the services that he offers to all of you who may not know anything about autism. So check it out. Please check it out. And if you want to know how to get on my podcast, please make sure you email me. That's info@inventingatoz.com, and go to my website, inventingatoz.com. But most importantly, keep on watching. You can watch us on YouTube and listen to us on all major podcast platforms. And please rate, review, subscribe, and share. So keep on coming back, and continue to lift each other up 2 hands at a time. And sometimes you got to use your foot. Until next time.